Well, you're probably tired of hearing me say this, but I'm going to say it again. This is the April Marvin Gardens video, and what a difference a month makes. Even Frankie would agree. Now, I'll tell you that the difference between the March video and what it was like out here, even though we shot it at the very end of March, and this video and how it is out here 3/4 of the way into April, it's just amazing, as you will see shortly. Now, what I want to do, if I can get this turned around, chives, and there they are. This is our little, what I intend to be my herb garden area, right in front of the side of the greenhouse. And the chives from last year are coming back up, so that's good. And these are, I forget if they're called Chinese chives or Asian chives, but they taste more like garlic than onions. So, but I'll have to look up the name of them so I can have it for you next time. Now, right next to that is wild arugula, or at least it's arugula that was growing wild. We were walking the dogs and we saw some guy harvesting from one of the farmer's farms, and he was a very chatty fellow and showed us that that he was harvesting these weed-like looking things, but they were in fact arugula. And so we grabbed some, and Vinny actually pulled some up by the roots, and I planted them, and they turned out like they're growing fine. We also cooked quite a few and had them with oven roasted carrots, and they were very good that way. And as you can see in bed one here, we have ourselves a completely full bed of good stuff. Most all of it is brassicas. And we're doing more plants this year than we have in previous years, because they're a good keto-friendly non-starchy vegetable. So first two rows here are cabbage, and then we have 2 rows of snow cauliflower and 2 rows of a Skywalker cauliflower, which we had good luck with last year. And then we got a couple rows of broccoli. And these, I don't know if they're technically brassicas, but it's a very healthy double row of bok choy, or Chinese cabbage. And then, of course, our kale. 2 rows of kale. And if you noticed on the far end there, are the kale plants that actually wintered over from last year. Now it looks like, because of the way the stalks are shooting up like that, and they're getting so tall, I'm guessing that these are going to seed or bolting, which is what typically what a biennial does. And I don't know if that's a biennial, but it looks like that's what it's doing anyway. So don't know if we'll get harvestable leaves, although the leaves that are on there look pretty good. But maybe we'll end up getting some kale seeds. Who knows? Anyway, the last row here is Brussels sprouts. Last 2 rows, I should say. And as you may or may not notice, all the compost that we had has been layered into as many beds as it would cover, giving us a couple inches of compost, and we pretty much planted right in that. And so as we come over here to the what used to be the compost / manure pile, you can see that it's not here anymore, except for the fact that we've started a new one. And so we're building that already for next year. And we've changed the the configuration under here, under the solar panels, because we're going to keep all the compost out in that area between those two angled posts. And I'm going to put some fencing up around so the doggies aren't tempted to come in and snack on the compost. Now, I don't think we had this up last time. This is what I'm calling the grow house, which is obviously a kind of lightweight greenhouse type enclosure, and that is where I'm planning to grow the squash, to see if that helps with pest control and disease control. And this was not a very expensive structure, and wasn't hard to put up. So it's worth just trying it out. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. No, not much loss. Now, this bed, which got cut into a little bit by the grow house there, is once again a complete bed of onions, which have been planted. I buy them as little plants from Johnny's Selected Seeds, and Vanina and I got these in the ground probably a couple weeks ago now, I think. That brings us over to this bed here, which used to be tomatoes, and it will be tomatoes again this year. But you'll notice down here, all the bee balm that was growing in the next bed over, we transplanted because we didn't want it growing in the beds, and I just kind of put it on the end of this bed, because this bed I kind of modified a little bit, because whenever I bring the tractor into the garden, we come around that corner and kind of run over that corner of the bed, so I kind of just permanently decided to kind of cut off that corner. Anyway, what we're going to have in this bed, like I mentioned before, is 4 varieties of tomatoes, and also we'll have 2 varieties of peppers on this end, and on the next bed, we got stuff going already. That's a lovely double row of bib lettuce, doing quite nicely, and that's followed by a double row of bunching onions. I think I did the deep purples again, and then planted from seed we have radishes, and as you can see, they're coming up gangbusters like radishes usually do. The next row over, which isn't showing at all yet, is a row of carrots, one of the dog's favorites. And then we got a row of spinach going here, which we hope will do okay in this bed. It's very soil sensitive. In other words, I couldn't get it to grow worth a dime on another bed, but last year I got it when I switched to one of the beds over on this side. The rest of those flags just mark where some more varieties of peppers are going to be. Don't know how much else we'll have there. I think it's just peppers. Now this bed is completely vacant right now, but it is reserved for the first 4 rows here will be peanuts. And I decided I wanted to grow them in here in a raised, loose, soiled bed to give them a good chance to grow, because they form underground. I'll tell you a little bit more about that once they're in the ground. And then beyond that, I've got planned a row of celeriac and a row of now I can't remember the other 2 rows that were in here, but anyway, that's what's going on in the garden proper. And as you can see, we've reconfigured the beds a little bit. This is now a much wider bed than it used to be and instead of having those mounds over on this side for squash, we've just taken the dirt and put it in the wider bed, and then done some seeding down here to kind of fill in the grass. Now, that brings us on a journey beyond the garden proper. And this usually pisses off Frankie no end because he wants to be included all the time. But he's busy eating some grass right now, so maybe we can get away with this. Anyway, I decided that since we're not growing corn out here and we're not growing winter squash out here, which are the two things we typically do in the external garden here, I would take this opportunity and the vacancies to start a new bed of asparagus. And there's one coming up right in the middle there. Boy, I don't know if you can see that. But there's one little shoot that's coming up from our first planting, and I'll explain that in a minute. Anyway, I do have some asparagus growing off the back deck, as you might remember, but there's not very much, and we only get a few stalks, a few good servings each year. And asparagus is a perennial plant, meaning once you get a bed well established, you can get 15, 20 years worth of asparagus out of one planting. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that the asparagus I planted out back off the deck has been producing for well over 10 years, so that's kind of good. I'm hoping that, I'll be able to pay a little better attention to it out here, and keep the conditions optimal for growing it. Anyway, there's 2 plantings out here because I think I inadvertently ordered my asparagus roots twice, and they come as roots, and you plant them in these little trenches. But I had some come and I got it planted, and then the next thing I knew, a couple weeks later, another box of asparagus came, and so it was like, well, I've got the space out there, I guess I'll just plant 4 more rows, which is exactly what we did. So I'm kind of excited about that a little bit. And Frankie, you are a very good boy, very patient boy. Yes, you're a very patient boy for waiting for Daddy. I'm coming back in right now. So anyway, what was I saying? Who knows? Let me get in here without letting Frankie out, and we will continue on. Now, we've still got stuff going on inside under the lights, but this year I start them in under the lights, and then once they get sprouted, I bring them out to the greenhouse, and that has been working great. And I'll actually show you that right now. Let's take a look at what's going on in here. This is artichoke. We've got some rosemary and some celeriac back there. Parsley up front, and peppers, and peppers. Then we got cilantro, which is also ready to go into the herb garden any day now, and eggplant in the back. Now here's the interesting one. These just came out into the greenhouse today, and these are the peanuts. And as you can see, I'm getting a pretty good germination, and when they come up with a vengeance. They are not small plants. So I'm hoping that I get a good start with these guys, and that I transplant them as already healthy growing plants. Now up front here we've got tomatoes in the front and sunflowers in the back, and then 3 more varieties of tomatoes here, and then a whole flat of sunflowers, which I haven't figured out where we're going to plant those yet, but probably off the deck in the back because they do pretty well out there. And that's Asian basil, which is a basil, but it's also an edible flower, and they taste really, really interesting flavors. So those will also be going in the herb garden. But it's been pretty delightful to have this greenhouse, even on the cold days. Coming out here and being able to step inside in the warmth and the humidity and the green growth. And in fact, if you look, you can see that I still just have grass in here, and I've actually had to cut the grass 2 or 3 times already. So that's pretty fun too when you're yearning for some warmer spring weather. The reason I'm walking all the way over here is just to give you a quick peek at some daffodils, because of course April is daffodils month. Those are cute little small but triple daffodils, and this sort of weed ground cover blooms once the warm weather hits a little bit, and these are interesting, pretty yellow blooms. They're only in the springtime, but they close up when it gets late in the afternoon and the evening. And of course, you all know Queen Jolie. Oh, there's a branch on your chair, my dear. Let's get that off of there. And you can see the only leftover strawberries we have are in this container here, and they're coming in nicely. But I'll tell you what else is coming. We think rain. I've got the fountain barrels out here, but haven't put the plants in them yet, although I brought all the plants that we had inside in one of these guys to winter over. I have brought them in, or brought them out already, and but I just haven't figured out where they're all going to go between these 2 fountains and the pond, of course. Now you can probably see that we've got a blooming peach tree, and a little nectarine tree beyond that is also blooming, and the pear tree, which is beyond that, I just finished pruning, and it's threatening to bloom. It's going to bloom, I think within the next week easily. So that's don't think there's much else to show you except for the containers out here are coming to life, which I think they had actually started back with the March video. Some of the smaller ones will probably go in the little fountain guys, and we also planted some of the bee balm over in these containers because we figured they probably do pretty good in containers. So if you notice, which you probably don't notice, the umbrella is tilted and pointing south because we're supposed to get quite a bit of a threat of thunderstorms and heavy rain overnight. And one thing I neglected to show you and tell you at the end of March was that finally, after being here since August, the all the puddles finally dried up, but we have since had a couple of good rainstorms, so we still have some ponding off there, but at least most of it's gone from the garden, and I'm hoping that we kind of dodge a rain bullet tonight and don't get too much rain, because number one, we don't need it, and number two, it'll keep us from being able to mow, which we will need to do very soon. So Frankie looks like he's ready to go in. I'm rambling as usual, but as long as I'm rambling, I might as well show you the pond, even though it doesn't look like much right now. But we'll check in so we can compare with how it looks next month, so I can again say what a difference a month makes. But you can see some daffodils shining or blooming there on the side, and a nice flow. I just vacuumed a lot of muck and junk out of the pond, and so I'm in hopes that it'll clear up soon if this rain doesn't muddy it all up. And you can also see all the planting of the perennial succulents / mosses that Vanina did. They're all coming back very happily. I have yet to change all the batteries and all the luminaries out here, but that'll come with time. And finally, there's another daffodil. Got to shoot them while we got them. And a few more around the wishing well, which is in fact a propane tank. But I guess we'd have to say that that's going to do it. It looks like I beat the rain. Though it certainly is looking threatening. But it's a beautiful, lovely afternoon, if cloudy and a little breezy. But it had to get close to 80 today. And we've just been having lots of fun puttering around, doing the things that need to be done in the spring with the garden. But that's going to do it. This is Marvin Gardens, April 2019. And once again, I hope you guys are having a great spring. And next month it will be May, which is typically the busiest outdoor month here at Sky Manor. And although we were pretty busy this April because the weather was cooperating. So that's going to do it. We'll see you next month in May. This is Marvin Gardens, April 2019. Happy spring, guys.